Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later because we've got a bit of a dramatic capture going on. And by that, I do of course mean the latest premium finished set from Takara Tomy featuring makeovers of some recent Generations bots. Before we get into it all, I should mention that today's review is brought to you by TF Source. You will find a link to their site in the description below, and you can check them out for all your Transformers needs. Artwork on this one looks predictably swish. You've got Jazz in front of Teletran 1 or Mainframe there on the little screen. Don't know who the red and blue guy is though. Then on the back, some images of the toys themselves, and you can see that apparently his name's Optimus Prime. I thought it was Convoy, but hey. Anyway, the artwork is actually on a big sleeve, so we can just slide that off to reveal the box itself inside. And this doesn't even have any tape or anything. You can actually just flip it right open and see the gorgeous looking toys inside. That is a very nice presentation. Of course, the biggest bit of it all here is Mainframe. He's seen here in kind of more toy-accurate Action Master colours after the orange version that came with the Arc, so I'm pretty excited for him. And weirdly, this is actually my first Cartoon Colors Studio Series Jazz. There we go, get him out of there. And last but not least, you've got Optimus Prime, of course. And here we go, it's all three of them out of the box and looking pretty sharp, actually. Like, I won't lie, the biggest attraction for me here was Mainframe, just because I am a bit of an Action Master nut, so the idea of getting him in his classic colors was just too good to pass up. But you know, the set overall does look very, very good. I mean, it's really nicely presented. The colors look great. Like, I love Optimus with those white thighs and everything as well. So overall, first impressions, pretty nice. Now let's kick off with looking at Jazz because, I mean, who doesn't love this guy, right? And this toy is pretty legendary as well. Now, as I say, I do have the orange repaint, the kind of Generation 2 version, but this is my first look at the kind of cartoon colors. Now, it's not that dissimilar from the original SS86 release, but there is a little bit more going on in terms of the stripes and things like this, which we'll look at in the car mode. But overall, I think this presents very nice, and the white looks good, the colors are nicely saturated, it's kind of beautiful. I mean, if you've never seen this mold up close, then that head sculpt is an absolute banger. And with the little baby blue eye visor as well, then just looking absolutely brilliant. Same goes for the colors elsewhere. Got a little lick of silver on the chest there, nice little blue headlights, the little red trim around the bottom of the bumper looks great. Love that blue around the Autobot logo, very swish. And again, it's not too dissimilar to the Studio Series release, but I do really like the silver, the little blue here. Again, more silver on the chest. It's nicely presented. These stripes are new though, so interesting to see how that looks in vehicle mode. Now, the one thing I personally find a little bit funky about this mold is the way that everything's just kind of folded up into the backpack. I mean, it's not bad by any means, but it just sort of hangs off the back there. I don't mind it. Some people are going to have something to say about the use of clear plastic in here because that is a known breakage point on the Studio Series release, and obviously they've redone it in solid plastic since, so it'll be interesting to see how it looks here. Not a major fan of this big product stamp there. Like, I know maybe that has to happen, but just a little bit unsightly. Equally, whilst I get it, I would have loved it if this forearm had a little cover, but I guess it is what it is. Articulation-wise, it's pretty good as well. I mean, the head can rotate all the way around, and he can look up and down a fair degree as well. Arms are pretty good. I mean, you get a little bit of give in there in the joint thanks to transformation, but they will come up to about 90 degrees just there. There is a bicep rotation as well. You get about a 90-degree bend at the elbow. Nothing in the hands, though, whatsoever. Now, in terms of the legs, they're not bad, but it's slightly impeded just here at the hip thanks to that little skirt section, so it kind of can't go the full 90. Knees are not bad. They will go to 90 degrees, but I do find on every version of this mold, they continually come untabbed. There's this little tab in the knee that just, there you go, it just kind of comes untabbed very easily, so that can be a little bit frustrating. But there is an ankle tilt as well, so not bad overall. And of course, you do have a waist swivel going on in there. Overall then, this is quite a pleasingly articulated bot. I think it looks great. You know, the presentation on this version is certainly nice, and it's a lot of fun to mess with. Like, they've done a good job with it. If you don't already have the Studio Series Jazz, this could be a fantastic option in terms of the robot mode. Now, turning our attention to Prime, it's funny because I did do a video on the original release of this guy, the Earthrise version, but this looks very different thanks to the colors. And I gotta say, on first impressions, I really like it. Like, actually, this was a big part of the sell for me on this set, just because I think the white thighs and the bolder colors, I think it does this mold a lot of favours. This might be the best presented version I've seen of it. And hey, I know there's a bit of a tendency to sometimes write off these slightly older molds once a new and shiny thing comes along. And in this case, we've got the Studio Series Optimus Prime, which I've done a video on that as well, and it is definitely an absolute banger. But for me, I still think this toy is pretty good on the whole. Like, definitely not perfect, but I was intrigued to see what this version brought to the table, and I'm liking it so far. I mean, I maintain this is a fantastic Optimus head sculpt. The little blue eyes look great, like like the kind of dark colour on the face just there as well. Moulding looks crisp. It's really nice. Quite enjoying the little dabs of orange paint on the lights just there. These chest windows look good. This yellow on the crotch section is really nice and saturated. That looks gorgeous, actually. Silver around here. And again, this white is so stark that it makes this mold feel very different overall. I kind of love that. Same goes for the little white outline Autobot logo. That looks very smart. And this saturated red is very eye-catching too. Also digging this blue just here. And, you know, the fact that it's more uniform on these legs makes this mold look a little bit more cohesive, which I think is great. And the joints and everything feel super tight. I don't know, this is a really good outing for this mold. Now, don't get me wrong, this mold is definitely not perfect. And we'll get into some of that with transformation, but my biggest gripe about the robot mode has always been the bump wheels. I mean, they are a little bit unavoidable. They're quite unsightly, just kind of hanging off the back there. I guess it is what it is with the kind of transformation that they baked into this thing, but it still doesn't make it kind of any better in terms of this robot mode. Now, articulation again is not bad. The head goes all the way around on a little ball joint, and you can look up and down a bit as well. Now, the arms are pretty good. You do get a bit of a butterfly joint in there thanks to transformation. They come all the way up to 90 and all the way up and over as well. You get a bit of bicep rotation, so that's good. Get about a 90-degree bend at the shoulder, and there is also a wrist swivel. Now, again, he has a waist swivel, slightly impeded by that wheel section at the back just there, but it's not too bad, honestly. Now, the leg articulation's pretty good here. The hips will go to 90 degrees and then come out as well. Really solid in these joints. I mean, I know I said it before, but honestly, it feels like they've really tightened it up quite a bit to quite a satisfying degree. Now, the knees are excellent and they will go well past 90, as you can see just there, and you also do get a good ankle tilt going on. And again, he's fun to pose, and I've got to say, with the tighter joints, I'm really appreciating this release and the new colors as well. Like, this is a mold I know very well, and my son really likes it as well, but I'm kind of liking the fact that now I've got my own premium version of it, given how knackered the other copy is looking. But yeah, this looks great, honestly, and handles like a dream. Also worth saying, it's nice to see him have a black blaster on this occasion, because the other one was silver. This looks so much better. Now, in terms of gimmicks on offer, this guy does come with a matrix of leadership. It's the law. Optimus Prime toys have to, so you just want to open his little chest doors to reveal it inside. Now, the matrix itself is removable, of course, and I think we've all seen this matrix mold by this point, but no matter, because what I really want to comment on is the painted interior, because for anybody that was disappointed about the Studio Series Optimus Prime just having a red interior, this looks gorgeous by comparison. Really nice paint. I mean, it's not 100% accurate to the movie or anything like that, but it still looks fantastic. Otherwise, the main thing to note here is weapon storage, as you can just slide his gun onto his back like so. And then finally, we come to Mainframe in his Teletran 1 mode, and I absolutely adore this thing. It's kind of goofy, but, you know, it's so much fun to see a toy of this supercomputer, like a transformable toy, after all of these years. And this does look a little bit different to the original, so that's kind of cool. And by that, I'm specifically referring to these computer readouts that you can see here. They've been updated since the Kingdom Arc release, so I really like that they did that. They went to a bit of effort with it, you know? And obviously the blue feet sticking out the bottom there are a bit funky, but I guess it's a bit of an acceptable compromise to get the correct colours in the robot mode. Now, what's also cool is that this guy does still come with his little Sky Spy accessory, which was found on the Kingdom version and represents the little satellite thing that goes out in the pilot episode of the G1 cartoon to find all the Autobots and Decepticons their vehicle modes. Explore! Explore! And it's a very simple little thing, but it's a welcome inclusion, and if you do just want to get rid of it, then you can fold it up like so, and then you can use this little peg to stow it away on the rear of Mainframe's computer mode. Speaking of which, you almost definitely don't want to look at this toy from this side in this mode, because, Now obviously it's still got these little bits here, which are functionality for when it combined with the Arc, and if you do still have the Arc, then you can still combine them as well. You can put it into that mode and store it inside the ship, so that's an option. In any case, it's all a bit of fun, and I kind of like the sort of almost playset value that this set brings. I mean, obviously you don't have the full arc, but the Teletran portion is still really fun to see, and overall I think there's a lot to like here. I mean, my first impressions of this trio are very positive. I'm absolutely loving that take on Earthrise Optimus Prime. Honestly, it's blown me away in hand. The jazz is nice too, probably less essential if you've already got the traditional coloured Studio Series, but the Mainframe is, as I say, just a bit of fun. What's not to love? Now, in terms of comparisons, let's start with Jazz, and here you can see him with that Legacy Generation 2 2 version, which I do really love. I'm super into the kind of weird and wonderful repaints that this Legacy line has been giving us, but I will say that this version, the Dramatic Capture version, the joints are so much tighter. Like, I love that orange jazz, but it's a bit loosey-goosey, whereas this one, super tight, exactly what you want, and it's fun to have the more traditional colours finally. For me though, no doubt the starkest contrast in this whole set is the Optimus, because just one quick glance at this thing versus the original Earthrise release will show you what I'm talking about. I don't want to say it's night and day, because let's be fair, it's still red and blue. I mean, it's not that stark in terms of contrast, but the white brings out just such a different vibe, and the more saturated red, the sort of slightly more muted blue, it's a little bit less shiny, the lack of silver highlights, it adds up to quite a bit of difference overall. And to me, there is no doubt that the Dramatic Capture release is so much nicer. It's really working for me. It feels a lot more premium in hand, which is kind of how this set is advertised, and it means that I'm happy to leave the Earthrise one in my son's bedroom, and I can stick with this one. You know, we've both got one each. How's that? And honestly, it is kind of funny, because I absolutely did not expect to be here in 2025 following the release of Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, by the way, saying that I was going to give the Earthrise Prime another turn on the merry-go-round. Look, that just was not on my bingo card. But it is still a really good mold, and this just shows it off to its best, frankly. Besides, as soon as you look at it versus the Studio Series, you can see that actually they both have their benefits in many ways, and it's always funny to me when people say that one of these toys is definitive somehow, like it just absolutely will always stand the test of time, because one thing so many years of Transformers collecting teaches you is that none of these toys is like the definitive one forevermore, right? Like, there's always going to be another Optimus Prime toy around the corner at some point, but for my money, I really like this take on Earthrise Prime. These two can both stay in my collection. And then it's just worth me doing a quick comparison with the Megatron from the previous Dramatic Capture set. You know, they did that Decepticon Bridge Crew, and I was so excited for this, but actually the kind of QC on it really let it down. Sadly, this Megatron is a bit floppy to say the least, so I'm super pleased to see that Optimus has not fared the same. Well, none of these figures have. You know, they all feel so much tighter, so much more polished, so that is a huge relief, because I was a little bit worried about it. I mean, I'm not kidding here. I know they say one shall stand, one shall fall, but I don't think they mean that one shall fall over. Now, to be fair, the Soundwave and Shockwave from that set was significantly better, so it really is just the Megatron that I've got a few grumbles with, but still, it's nice to see that this updated Autobot set is looking on point. And then finally, you can see a comparison between the two Talatrans, the two mainframes, and again, you can see the readouts are different on the two of them. Not stunningly different, not like you're going to be like, oh my god, different readouts, but it is still a really nice inclusion. And yes, you can see that the Kingdom one is that touch more cohesive thanks to the orange feet, but of course the payoff with the Dramatic Capture one is going to be in the robot mode, so we'll get to that shortly. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and check out Transformation. Transformation done, and that remains a lot of fun. I think you really get your money's worth in this set in terms of conversion and play value and all of that kind of good stuff. There's a lot to do. It feels very substantial across the 3 toys, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think what's really cool here though is that all of the joints feel a lot tighter than on any of the previous versions actually, whether it's Jazz, Optimus, or indeed Mainframe. They all feel like they've been tightened up quite significantly, but not to a ridiculous degree, like just the right amount. Like it really feels like Takara have finessed this set, which is great because actually the previous Dramatic Capture set with the Decepticon trio did not feel like that. It actually felt very loosey-goosey in places, so this is brilliant to see. And the second modes all look fab. Like Jazz here is on fine form. I know some people are going to say about, yes, the clear plastic and worries about it breaking or whatever. I haven't seen any of that yet. Whether I will or not in the future, like it's a possibility, of course, at any stage, but as for today, all is well. And the vehicle mode looks stunning. Again, the really new element here are the stripes on the rear wheel arches, and they do add a little something to the effect overall. Really striking. Paint everywhere else looks sublime. This is very crisp, very well finished. It looks fantastic. It still has the number 14 on the doors instead of the traditional 4, which I know some people are really not keen on. I mean, I guess you could take off the 1 with a bit of rubbing alcohol if indeed it bothers you that much, but it doesn't me. I think it's a callback to Jazz's original toy being number 14 in 1985, but either way, it is what it is. And you know, the worst bit of this mold is still the feet hanging out the back, which I'll never quite get used to, but there you go. Of course, you can add the gun onto the roof of the car as well, if indeed you want to, for a bit of artillery. Overall, though, there's really not a lot to dislike here. I mean, this is a sublime toy. The transformation is great. I really dig it overall. Slight nitpick on the feet, but otherwise, brilliant stuff. And again, like Jazz, you know, the transformation on Optimus is so much better and more tight than it used to be. Like, it just feels more fluid as a result. Everything kind of hangs together a little bit better, so dramatically improved, I would say. Case in point, stuff like these little silver sections on the thighs, they actually hold in place now, whereas they always felt a little bit floppy to me before, like they were never that rigid, but now they feel very purposeful. I feel like the all-blue truck bed looks a little bit more cohesive here as well, maybe, like it's still ultimately a pair of legs folded up, but I don't know, something about it works for me. And just generally speaking, I think this is a very tidy presentation of this mold. I mean, I've got to say, it's not my favorite rendition of Optimus's truck mode. I find it a little bit lacking versus the robot mode, which I think is fantastic on this toy. You know, the vehicle mode, there's a little bit to be desired, but it's not bad. It's a little bit of a box on a pair of legs for my liking, but still, it's fine. And there's no doubt that this particular release is the best I've seen so far. I mean, I will say that the differences here in this mode are not quite as stark as they are with the robot mode, but still, you do notice it. I mean, the lack of the silver stripe around the outside of the cab is very obvious straight away. Some people might miss that. I don't personally. I think it actually looks a little bit cleaner without it in this case. Sacrilege, I know, but there you go. That's how they look together. It's also, again, a really interesting comparison versus the Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime. And I gotta say, whilst I do still prefer that toy overall, like that's just my personal opinion, I think it's really, really good. I also really dig this Earthrise mold in these colors. It's given it a new lease of life for me. So these two can coexist, as I said earlier. And even if I do have my preference for the one over the other, it doesn't mean that they're not still both fun toys. Of course, the Studio Series does have the advantage of coming with a trailer, and yes, the original Earthrise one did, but let's be honest, it's a bit pants. Now, someone online did ask me what this new Dramatic Capture release looked like with the Studio Series trailer, and here you can see that it doesn't really work because it's too big, let's be fair, but still could be an option. Now, as with Jazz, you've got various options for how you can mount the gun using those little weapons ports all over him, or indeed you can fold the thing up and plonk it in there like so for a bit of weapon storage. And then finally, we come to what for many of us is going to be the main event of this release. Let's be completely honest about it, because it's the prospect of seeing Mainframe in his Action Master colours that is just too weird to pass up, to be fair. Like, if you're an Action Master fan like me, and there are a few of us around, there are dozens of us, you know, you can't resist something like this. It's just so wonderful to kind of have this sort of thing made real. Like, I've seen a few customs of this guy done, you know, from the Kingdom version, and they've all looked fantastic, but this for me was absolutely worth the wait. It's really striking. It's exactly how I pictured it would be. I mean, firstly, the face sculpt is so striking, the whole head sculpt really, and this shows it off to its best in those colours with the light piping and everything. Yeah, it's just gorgeous. Digging the detail on the chest there, the paint all looks super crisp, nice finish to it. The red is not like super vibrant, it's a little bit muted if anything, but still the colour scheme here works overall, and I think that's really saying something considering that he basically does look like he's wearing a massive pair of orange wellies, right? Like, the orange is a little bit of a weird oddity in terms of this overall colour scheme, but somehow it works. I don't know, it works. And yes, this guy's pretty kibble-tastic problematic on account of having the whole of the Ark's bridge hanging off his back there, but what are you going to do? I guess it's part of the charm at this release. Now, articulation-wise, you can move the head from side to side. Shoulders will come out to 90 and go all the way up and over. There is a bicep rotation, and you get about a 90-degree bend at the elbow as well. There is a waist rotation, but it's a little bit impeded by the massive backpack here, so that's about all you get. But the legs are pretty good because the hips will go past 90, you get about 90 degrees at the knee as well. You've got a bit of rotation there in the thigh, and there's even an ankle tilt, which all told means that he's pretty limber. I mean, he's not the most articulated bot in the world, but for a supercomputer, he can certainly pull some moves, let's put it that way. And then, of course, you can see him with the original Kingdom version in the orange, and to me, as I say, this just makes the most dramatic difference out of all of this set. I keep saying it's dramatic, and I guess that's in the title of this set, but for this, it really does apply, because just look at that difference. Honestly, like I was umming and ahhing over whether I should get this set, was it really worth it, and seeing this now in hand, it absolutely makes all the difference to me. Like, I'm so glad that I did. And then here you can see him with the original Mainframe from 1990, so this is the Action Master. Of course, it doesn't transform, and it definitely doesn't transform into Teletran 1, but it's still super cool and comes with its original Action Master partner called Push Button, and it's a bit of a shame that the Dramatic Capture release doesn't have a gun or a weapon of any kind like the original does, but still, this is a very enjoyable comparison, and I'm so pleased that they did this. It just makes me want to get more of the kind of recent Action Master homages as well, like Jackpot or whatever else. All in all then, I've got nothing but real positives to say about this set, especially as I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was actually going to. I mean, for me, it's worked out incredibly well, because it's given me new lease of life on two molds that I already enjoyed but had kind of moved on from a little bit, and now I'm appreciating them all over again, and it's given me the classic colours of a mold that I only had in kind of a weird repaint. So, you know, it couldn't have been more perfect, as I say, but perhaps that's not going to be the case for you, but no matter, there's still a lot of enjoyment here to be had, and so for me, this is very definitely a toot. Now, as already mentioned, this review is brought to you by TF Source, so you will find a link to their site down in the description below, and you can check them out for all your Transformers needs. I'd also be very grateful if you could leave me a like for this video, please, but otherwise that's it from me. So have a great rest of your day, and TTFN.